Study from Home Series Episode 5, Retouching Photos. Thank you again for joining us in today's lesson, Retouching Photos. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jodi, a New York City fashion photographer with over 20 years experience. This is the 5th episode in Jodi Jones' series teaching you how to make money from home in photography. This series aims to give fellow photographers outside the box tips and strategies. Today's lesson will give you a basic structure and understanding of what you will need in order to start making money at home by retouching either other people's photographs, your clients' photographs, or a new brand's photographs. As some of you well know, retouching images is something that most businesses and photographers choose to outsource. Why is that? Well, it can be very time-consuming, and the cost of paying someone else to do it can sometimes be worth the time, freeing up your time and resources. What you will need to start. You do not need to necessarily be a professional photographer to even start retouching photos. A sound understanding of the fundamentals of photography and a good eye are more than enough to start really bringing other people's photos to life. The Adobe Suite features some excellent photo editing programs to get started with, namely Photoshop and Lightroom. I would recommend taking a course or even a refresher course in retouching photos using the editing software available to you, and really brush up on your skills and increase your efficiency and work rate. YouTube is also a valuable resource when looking up how to perform specific tasks. It's not necessary, but I would recommend, if it's possible, to get a high-end resolution monitor for your home computer, as it's important for your ability to correct, adjust, and edit the image. How do we do this? For starters, we need to pick the best of the bunch. This process is called editing. There is no particular right or wrong way to edit photos. It all boils down to experience and what is the most pleasing to the eye. A good way to do this is to narrow down the field by about 90% and then compare the selection of photos with each other to find the best of the best. Sometimes I like to do this in phases. I'll do an initial run. A program I like to use is Capture One. I'll do an initial run and I'll make everything that I think has a potential I give it a 1 star. And then from there, I start to give it better stars and rating until maybe I just choose all the 3 stars and that's the final shots. To get the best quality of your final image, it's highly recommended that you work with RAW files. Only a few times have I worked with JPEGs. In fact, when I did virtual photo shoots, I had to use iPhone pictures. But it is not recommended to do good retouching work on JPEGs. You really need to have a RAW camera file. From here, we adjust white balance, contrast, your color, and sharpening. If the subject of the photo is a little dark, try adjusting the luminosity slider and the red and orange balance slider to brighten the skin while leaving the background relatively unchanged. Subtly increasing the clarity of the image will really make it pop. However, it also emphasizes any imperfections in the skin tones. I like to do this especially when I want to create character. Or with people who I want to emphasize like wrinkles or add just depth to the picture. This can be remedied by spot healing blemishes, pimples, and stray hairs that have become prominent on the image. A lot of photographers I know use frequency separation to fix any mismatched skin tones. I personally don't use this. What I like to use is dodge and burn, and that is a technique originally used in the darkroom to reduce light in an area, dodging, in order to lighten it, or increase the exposure of light to darken an area, burning. We can use the same effect in our editing software to highlight areas of an image to make it more visually appealing. Be wary when touching up the eyes. You definitely want them to pop, but they need to look natural. Sometimes you really need to take your retouching in stages so you don't overdo it. Less, again, can be more. So how do we drum up business? Word of mouth, for sure, social media, and advertising on freelancer platforms such as Fiverr. These are great ways to get the message out there that you are taking on retouching work. Your advertising needs not cost an arm and a leg. You can put together a portfolio of before and after photos exhibiting your work to show prospective clients that you can accomplish this for them. Setting up this type of portfolio is very easy. So how do we keep business? Be professional in your work. It's really important to give your client achievable delivery dates and competitive pricing for the workflow that you have taken on. Ideally, your rates will be reflective of the time taken to do each size package you are offering. Price brackets according to the size and complexity of the task to give your client a very transparent view of what they are getting for their money. I have found as a photographer that one of my largest expenses is retouching. I've had to do a lot of the retouching myself because I just literally did not have it in the budget to outsource. So I realized early on that photographers who have the skill of retouching really have an advantage because you can really make a lot of money with retouching. And the great thing is that you can work from home. You can work with a lot of different clients, from brands to other photographers, as well as adding such value to your own work. Take time to reflect. It's really important to periodically review your rates. Adjust them according to the time taken for each photo or task. You want to give your client a competitive rate and deliver the highest quality of work you can without selling yourself short. If there is any feedback from your client regarding the quality of your work, take it on board and in a constructive way. Perhaps there is more you can learn about a particular element of retouching. Take the time to brush up on that skill or educate yourself better. Depending on the complexity of the work involved in retouching a photo, I found that when I've outsourced my images, say for instance for editorial use, I've probably been charged between $50 to $200 an image. Another thing that you might want to consider doing if you're going to take on the extra skill of being a retoucher and making some additional income with it is to set up a separate social media account. Perhaps it's a new IG account, and it is all about your retouching skills. You can show great before and afters. It's always good to maybe separate that from your own personal or from your own professional photography website, especially if a lot of your clients and the models, if you work with models, so they don't have to see the before pictures, especially if there's a lot of work done. But that way you can completely market yourself as a retoucher separately than your photography as well. To briefly recap what we have covered, here are a few key points to remember from today's lesson. 1, you do not need to be a professional retoucher even to retouch photos. Educate yourself using different software. Advertise your business through word of mouth, social media, and freelancer platforms, as well as on your own website. Set up a specific portfolio for this. Carefully consider your rates. Use PayPal to secure payments, and take time to reflect and review. This week's homework is to create a portfolio of retouched images. Take the time to learn about different effects through online tutorials and courses. Start setting up your own business so that you can really be ready to start advertising your services. The team here at Jodi Jones Studio hope that you have found today's lesson useful and enable you to make money from home with your photography or your extra skill set. If you haven't already, please refer back to our previous videos in this series and stay tuned for the next lesson, Storytelling with Your Work.